Hi folks, hope you are doing well. In this session today, we are going to learn one of the most powerful functions of Excel, that is Vlookup. Now, when I use Vlookup, what Excel usually does is it matches any value with the extreme left hand column values. Okay, whatever cell value you have in one of the extreme left hand corner or left hand columns of your data. For instance, I may have a customer ID, and using customer ID, I can fetch any other value. Like for instance, if I have this customer ID, I can easily figure out the region of this customer or the credit or the payment type of this customer, transaction code, and so on. That is VLOOKUP. Now we would add extra power to that VLOOKUP today and see what else VLOOKUP can help you do, right? Let us say, for instance, let us build a VLOOKUP function for you. Now, for instance, let us say I'm building a VLOOKUP table over here. Okay. Now I have, let us say I'm inserting some functions. I would say customer ID. Okay. And over here, let us say, for instance, I would like to see the payment type. Okay, now let me build the VLOOKUP. Now what I'm trying to do is I want to make a dynamic sheet where I simply enter the customer ID and I get the type of payment made by the customer. So let us insert a VLOOKUP function for it. So let's initiate the VLOOKUP by using an equals to VLOOKUP, and then first it asks me for a lookup value. The lookup value would lie in the customer ID cell. Okay. Now I select this cell, that would be my lookup table, lookup value. Now I would need a table array. What is a table array? The table array is the entire data which I have from where the data would be fetched. Fine. So I have selected my table. Let me freeze it. Freezing is not necessary over here, but for instance, you may wish to drag it if the table extends. So whatever you wish to do, the table would be frozen, so it's fine. Okay, now it asks me to match. So I would like to match it with payment type column. So let me see what is the index of the payment type. Now the index in this table, column 1, column 2, column 3. So payment type is column number 3. So just we need to write 3 to indicate that it's the column number 3 of my table. Now another comma. Now it wants me to look for an approximate match or an exact match. I want an exact match, so I'll insert 0. If I wanted an approximate match, I would use 1. So in this case, it is an exact match. So insert a 0, close the brackets or parenthesis. Now this is the function that you have. So hit enter. So right now you have an NA value. Reason being, I don't have a customer ID. So for instance, now a customer calls up and wants to inquire about the payment that he has made. Okay. So the customer tells you his customer ID. For instance, in this case, let us say the customer is 10010. This is the customer ID. Okay. So the customer care executive over the phone, when he receives a call and the customer tells him the ID, now he enters it over here and boom. Now he gets the information that the payment was made through PayPal. Fine. Now here you would see that it's only just the customer ID which I enter and the payment type changes. Now if I need to know the product, okay, if I just insert, I want a product. If I keep on changing this payment type, I'm getting PayPal. Now if I want a product, if I insert a product, I won't get. Okay. So for instance, let us say I would say DVD or a product I wanted to know, I won't get it. Okay. So in that case, I want to make my table dynamic, my lookup dynamic in a two-way, in 2 dimensions. Okay. So in that case, what could be done and how? Let us perform the same thing. Let us say I'm taking this and I'm creating a two-way lookup. Fine. So I would start with Vlookup. Okay. So now what is the lookup value for me? The lookup value would be, or let us say my lookup value would be the customer ID which I would insert in this cell. So I just take this, comma, and now I would select the table array, which is the entire table. Okay. So I just select my entire table, freeze it. Fine. Now it wants me to look up for a particular index. Okay. Right now I don't have an index I don't want. And in this index, I would define which index to look for. I want to make it dynamic. Okay. Just with a VLOOKUP, if I fix a column index, the entire argument would be hardwired and I won't have the flexibility of changing my column lookup. At that point of a time, I would like to make it flexible or dynamic, and I would insert a very interesting function called match. Okay. Now in this match, what should be the lookup value now? I would like to give a lookup value for any column name. Okay. So I would insert that column name in this cell. Let us say right now it's payment type. Okay. So I would just give any new name in this blank cell. So I've selected this. Now, what is the lookup array? In this case, I have to simply look up for the labels of my data set. So I would select the labels of my data set. These are the labels. It has to just match with the labels. Freeze it again. Done. Now, again, is it an exact match or approximate? I would like an exact match. So 0. Match argument is done. Now I would close the VLOOKUP argument. So is it an exact match or an approximate? I need an exact match. So enter 0. Close the parenthesis. Hit enter. Right now it is, I don't have any value right now. So it's quite simple now. Okay. Now, for instance, let us say I have a customer ID 10010. Okay. I want to know the product. So right now I would write product over here. Okay. Now just see, boom. Now for this person, it is DVD. Okay. Let me delete this to avoid any confusion. Same way here, time of day or amount. Okay. Now just see, it was 23.39. So now it becomes a two-way lookup table. Makes sense? So hope you enjoyed this video. If you find it useful, do spread the good word. Thank you for watching.